but hi, I'm Jessica, she, her, hers. Yeah, so I'm gonna switch over to the document that I'm using. So I won't be able to see your wonderful faces responding. So if you wanna put it in the chat, I'll look at it later. Otherwise, I'll just sort of be reading into the dark. But I really appreciate being invited this evening. Okay, cool. So first of these poems, I am a contingent faculty member, which is a nice way of saying adjunct, which is a nice way of saying I'm kind of fucked. The first year after I completed my last graduate degree, I taught 11 classes in a single calendar year. And this poem is about what happened at the end of that. It's called Bookworms. Their little hands cut the volume. We know a fairy tale is an adaptive strategy in the face of what can happen to these bodies we've so newly rented from the ground. Once upon a time, a sister and a brother had to run away from the opening sentence in which the mother is dead already. So their little hands rip the pages into crumbs and panic scatters the full length of the deepening forest. Not far from here, a daughter and a son built a waterfall out of paper. The premise of the story always absent mother. This tiny family moves suitcases and small furniture to the pulp waterfall's far side. Paper is opaque. It is needless to fear death by water. Wasteland tucks its waistband with old collection notes. A little family waits for the hidden seam of quiet. A daughter and a son have a broke mommy who doesn't sleep anymore. She stays awake at the spinning wheel, weaving straw into automatic payments. When she runs out of straw, she spins her plasma instead. Separate the matter from the blood. The paper waterfalls, a confetti of the stories my daughter and my son tell me. A world in which bedtime will find us all stuck snug in the unbudging swaddle of years together, always. Not long ago, my children asked me, what is my bank balance? What type is my blood? If I am sleeping, what is the definition of opaque? I said it is the opposite of see-through. You can't tell what's on the other side. They unwind the plasma bandage from my arm, asking me to try again. My answers plash the rock floor, saying less than water does. Once upon a time, 2 little babies were picked up from little baby school by a babysitter unexpected who said, your mommy needs a little longer to get here. And there was no crying because the babies were never told the entire story. Somewhere else, the hospital swallowed me. I checked my watch and counted aloud the fingers held before my eyes. Beyond the forest, in a land of cookies and waiting, 2 little babies watch the night fall. The king of sleep tickles his chin from a distant cloud, and the babies mouth a spell for her not to be taken. Love is staying awake a little longer. The moon activates each clean stone. 2 babies tell themselves new versions of Snow White, remembering when she used to bring home apples. They kiss the glass of the babysitter's window, noting each small difference between a coffin and a cradle. Crawling, I carry the smallest house between my shoulder blades. Little bricks cut my wings to paper. I don't need to fly. I only need to outrun worms. A noise in the forest sops every drop of darkness till their mother is birthed from it, slick and pale, the slip of paper wound around her wrist, bearing Rumpelstiltskin's name and a series of numbers. Okay. I'm gonna actually pop back over and see who is here. Oh, thank you. Just because, oh, I don't see her here, but that's okay. I was gonna shout out Stina, who is the organizer for the reading that Ben saw me at, because I read, or didn't read it to her, but I sent this poem to her back when she was my boss, which is not something I will ever say in a job interview, and you'll soon know why. Okay, how to fuck straight men, a guide for queer femmes. Step 1, you played a lot of Tetris as a kid, right? Step 2, find a human whose knuckle hair curls soft into questions. Let the idea of liking him exist. Step 3, he may open doors for you. Pretend this is your fetish. Step 4, He will name drop femme cultural figures he admires and not talk about putting his penis into any of them. This is a sign. Step 5. Watch your own soft knuckle hair lengthen into a kind of underline. Let the idea of him seeing this exist. Step 6. He may make sure you come first because he thinks that his shudder will be the closing quotation at the end of this sentence. He may homophonically translate your animal sounds into the only language he knows. Pretend this is your fetish. Step 7. Playing Tetris. You learned to turn your body into as many directions as possible to fit it in. Step 8. Playing Tetris. You learned to do this while falling down. Step 9. He may arrange your caresses into a wire, because this is a man who fucks a lot of straight women and fucks them very well, but does not know the bodies he loves are houses that only pretend to be clotheslines. He kisses your taut length. He lays the wet laundry across it. Step 10. You learn that the completion of a single row is the straight line that disappears in its own naming. Okay, I'm going to switch on over to a poem from my chapbook here. I'll pop a link to it in the chat later on. But you too could own this floppy collection of pain right here. I'm just going to read one of them though. Also, Stephen Dunn did the blurb for this, and I want to shout him out especially because I found out today that he won a fucking Whiting, and I'm so proud of him. Oh my gosh, he's just such a sweet man, and I couldn't think of a better deserved award. Okay, this one is called Cost a Prenup. The undersigned will never be expected or asked to cover the cost of each session. A daughter in sand therapy. She burns her fingers through the tray. Make a picture. She makes her father out of glass for only split seconds. The hour ends. He is sand again, unmelting back to the matter that slips her hands. And sand can't manage the price of care. Day centers or kindergarteners who tend to children when mother affected works to feed, to keep weather from singeing sleeping hair. She overheads a roof in a hut made of money and bone marrow. Like the hollow where her daughter hits her own chest at night, crying for a daddy that isn't, not hard enough to harm, but hard enough to hear. Her daughter hits the beat, pulse that reminds her she curls in the hollow of her beached heart, finally to sleep. A home out of whale bones, smelling like life once it's gone. Child support is the salt the undersigned agrees to keep clear of the wounds. A daily silent deposit of nothing more to feel. When children growl at passing cars to keep them from taking the mother as well, or strike mother's face for not being him, then fall tear first into childhood again, to beg fast mommy hugs or bribe new love from the very bricks walling memory away. This new family will love, in mortar and fissure, imperfectly one another, per the agreement no one holds the undersigned to. The affected party will never make him pay for any of this. Story. The next book that I'm working on is a lot of it's about being broke. And when you're broke, a lot of times people decide to give you maybe some condescending, unsolicited advice about how not to be broke, right? And you don't need it, and it's always stuff that you've already thought of before, but they feel the need to tell you. But sometimes those conversations take on kind of a weird dynamic. Like they're a little too eager to sit you down and explain it to you, or they really enjoy the idea of offering me direction, thinking I should do what they say about this because it's good for me. And I kind of start to go, are you trying to be my advice top? Like, is that what's happening here? Like, we're kind of sliding over from like self-professed financial guru into daddy, and that's not a fetish that I have. So anyhow, I began thinking in response to these conversations, and a big chunk of what I'm writing about right now is the implied sexual politics of not having money. So this is a poem that kind of goes after those themes a little bit. I asked Dina ahead of time, you know Ugly Mug, right? If I read this poem, are they gonna be mad? And she's like, you're fine. So if it's wrong, then blame her. Okay, entrance interview. I can work you if you want. Describe a time you had to take on more at a job. Professionalism is when I take for granted, like so much fucking, that I must enjoy this because I'm told I do it well. Describe a job you had to take on more. What I do well is unhinging my body's every jaw to admit a wider girth than the space I took already. Describe your mouth as a species of work. Hook me to the wall. Pay my dues on time. Describe a job you handled a team. Dare me. I swell to fit my cunt around anything asked of me. Flesh lip the rim of office computers, stationery, and blood pressure equipment. I'm a good girl. I ask to fit even more. Sibilant S's shedding skin as a snake in pussy's long middle. Call my body by its slow name. Coil out and squeeze. Swallow eggs the wrong way. Look at her go. Describe a team that handled your every mouth. Cyborg thrust toward wet capital. Look at me and all I can take. I can take the work. I can take the weight. Can take the whole circumference of a full plate. I can take a heavy load, take a dirty load, take a snake moan direct. I can take a big cock. I can take saying it to my face. I can take long nights. I can take a bigger cock. I can take a blown wad. I can take a beating. I can take a dark balloon of blood. I can take this. I can take this. I can take you watching. As I superwoman my way along the shaft of a constant soaking. I can take these work conditions and put them on each future piece of paper. I am defined by the horror of what I can gracefully handle. I can spit out the tooth and change the letterhead to something classy. I can take your entire hand. I can take the money in it. Describe in comfortable language the hot fraying edge of your elasticity. The hardware rumbles my belly. You tell me this is me getting mine. Later. Okay. This next poem was written during the pandemic. I decided not to include any of my poems about the pandemic because I just published an essay about the pandemic and I'm kind of pandemiced out tonight. But this one is from November. I also want to shout out Lily Duffy. She gave me some really helpful personal and poetic support as I was putting this one together. And you should buy her book. It's really good. Okay. This one's called The Shell and the Wing. I wonder if the photograph floats. A temporary glitch in falling that turns the whole ass world underwater. I ask a question, and you lift the shell once more to my ear. You gentle the photograph with upward thumb, a kind of beautiful that lies on its side, till it remembers its own paper and slips through the seam of the room. I ask you a question, and the shell stays in place as if having moved. The photograph of my lips and shoulders, which I know you like. Do you like me or the photograph? It is fucked. You have told me where your thumb goes. It dances my part, soft, long against you. Frenzy's compact pocket this narrow space of my absence. I wonder what human water you've spent thrusting my face out of the way. I turn you on, splitting the quiet air, exiting the world once you're done. I ask you this question with particular care. The shell rotates. I cough out a hollow hour of wonder, whether it moved in a pattern I can read or your hand simply got tired. I never told you this. The first time I shook your hand, I shook myself to splinters in the bed 2 hours later, tucking a wish into night's pocket, like a penny for later. I ask you the question and you lift my chin to it, my ear cupped in animal swirl. It spirals cream ridges outward from your palm. I try to listen past the shell's hoarded store of air, hear the blood moving through your fingers. My question is like a photograph of a bird trapped in a room. In a still, its beauty is stuffed with purpose we impart only to creatures we pretend more free than us. I can't capture that flight is a race to outrun my own skeleton. splatter my panic in gusts against this human wall every time I ask the well to love me back. This is not a way to treat an animal. I ask you the question. Each cold edge of the shell scrapes not my mouth in microscopic script. Cells my cheek will flake off later. Confess. You are offering the shell as my new home. Is this your way of trying to make me safe or make me smaller? I rehearse ungiven kisses against the inside of my teeth. Whisper, please. Fly into you like a closed window. Okay, how we doing? I'm checking back in. I see faces, I see humans. I am reading to human beings and not to my screen. All right, I'll go back to it. Just two more. Okay, so these last two pieces are from the book that I have forthcoming. And I'm putting them here in part because they're from the book and also because they're the ones that have content warnings. So these pieces will include non-graphic references to sexual violence and related graphic references to physical abuse, as well as non-graphic references to racist violence. Regarding that last one important component of my forthcoming book is an examination of white supremacy's relationship to presumed white female fragility and the way that white womanhood is weaponized specifically against Black and brown men. However, given the events of recent days, I'm choosing to avoid the pieces that deal most directly with themes like racist murder and the role of policing, because I don't think that it should be up to me as a white person to decide whether those triggers are acceptable. So they're an important part of this book, but I'm going to be mostly moving around them for tonight. This first poem is about one of the babies who's sleeping in the next room. It's called Growth Chart. I'm sitting at the kitchen table watching my 2-year-old son eat pumpkin seeds. He is eating pumpkin seeds and beans and peas and potatoes, and I am trying to breathe quiet. He has to eat. He is too small, the doctor's been telling me. There's a steady wave on the growth chart, lines high and low that swerve upward together, and my son is a sweet round dot below them all, like an uncollected star. Some corner of the sky abandoned by the zodiac, a neighborhood of only dark. I am watching my son's small round head and the pumpkin seeds he deposits so carefully there. I'm thinking about the little white girl who is eating lunch with her father somewhere, probably nearby. I've never met her, but I always have. The little white girl eating Fruit Loops in a princess bowl and being taught that my son wants to hurt her. Her equally small brother grows too large for his socks at the slow thought of protecting his sister from my black son. That love is an ivory wash of her body, a pudding to lock. A twig sprouts needlessly from her shoulder. In years to come, the color of its knife fruit sets off the teardrops jeweling her eye. I am sitting here with my son, watching him eat pumpkin seeds, trying his damnedest to grow. All right, and then this last poem, I come from a big-ass Irish Catholic family, but big-ass though it may be, like my grandmother had 8 children and there's just cousins all over the place. Some of them may even be here. Are you my cousin? I don't know. Um, uh, Even though it's a big Irish Catholic family, the Catholicism itself didn't sort of waft its way into the upbringing that I had. So as I was writing this, I needed to consult some folks about some of the religious stuff that's going to be coming up in it. So I want to give a big shout out to Mairead Case, who also has a book out. It's called Tiny. You should read it. It's great. But she was able to kind of give me some spot checking on the religious and historical elements of this piece. It's the last one. It's called Cannon Fodder. I need to talk about Maria, who died in 1902 at age 11. The neighbor's son, a man already, tried twice to rape her. When she refused the 3rd time, he stabbed her to death. She was canonized the year Truman ordered developed the hydrogen bomb. Beatified the year after Donald Trump was born. She died forgiving him. I forgive Alessandro Seralini. I want him with me in heaven forever. He went on to repent, join the church. Behind every great man is too much forgiving and an all of blood. Wounds penetrated her throat, lesions, pericardium, heart, lungs, diaphragm. The surgeon, surprised her body still worked long enough for deposition and the gift. She chose death above tarnish. Women are cups. I will cut you when you drink me. You've been drinking me long enough for Christ to come. I want to find the right forms to start a religion. Canonize the little girls who choose not to die. Girls who cry the pillows to scar tissue. Girls denser, girls darker, girls made of as much water as Maria. And I want Maria to find him at his Bible and burn the tower down. Thank you.